Swadika, I'm your host, Prinat Apirat, and welcome to Thailand Today. APEC is a trade and investment-focused forum that has spanned to cover issues of inclusivity, sustainability, climate change, digitalization, and now adaptations of modernized business models and post-COVID economic recovery. Thailand, as host of APEC 2022, seeks to drive discussions that lead to key deliverables in the region under the theme Open, Connect, Balance. To find out more, today we speak with Ms. Prinat Apirat, the Deputy Director General of the Department of International Economic Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Swadika, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Sawadika, Kuntra. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here. Of course, this year, Thailand has the paramount task of hosting APEC 2022. Can you give us an overview of Thailand's goal in this role?
Sure. Just to put Thailand's host year into perspective, let's take a few steps back and just look at the regional economic landscape over the past few years. So we had the U.S.-China trade war and a trend towards protectionism and looking inwards. And to make matters worse, we were then hit with COVID-19.
Right.
So, it was pretty much a double whammy all around. So
a lot of issues, yes.
Right. So that was the situation we were facing back in, I guess, 2020, even 2021, as we were preparing for our host year. So, we looked at what were our key priorities and what we wanted to look at, and we engaged in a lot of conversations with the private sector, with our stakeholders, with the private sector, members of the academia, members of civil society, to find out what it was that they were interested in and that they wanted to see APEC move ahead. And of course, we had to stay true to the spirit of APEC as well. And so we looked at what our goals were for the immediate goals that we had to tackle, and also as we are assuming the host year from New Zealand, and the focus is certainly recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right.
So in essence, we saw this as an opportunity for us to drive economic recovery, and also to look at our future growth, how we could set the region on a growth trajectory, essentially towards, sustainable, balanced economic growth and development. So both looking at the immediate terms of what can we do to move beyond the pandemic and recover in a sustainable and resilient way, and also to ensure benefits for people and members in the APEC economies, and certainly for the Thai people as well. So in essence, this all came about together, where we with the engagement of our stakeholders, and together we came up and formulated our theme of Open, Connect, and Balance.
I was just going to ask you about that, and this is the logo for this year.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about the theme itself, and as well as the logo that we're looking at right here?
Sure. Well, the logo is the Shalom, and our theme is Open, Connect, and Balance. And these three words, it in a sense, it captures the ideas and the concepts that we would like to push forward. Open, we mean open to all trade and investment opportunities. Trade and investment is the heart and soul of APEC, if you could say. When our leaders got together, their vision, was for free and open trade investment in the Asia-Pacific region. How can we work together to move that forward? Here we are talking about, in essence, reconnecting the region once again. There were a lot of disruptions that we saw from the pandemic, or even prior to the pandemic. So there was a need for us to reconnect the region again. The color that is associated here is pink, for us to reconnect again. And balance here certainly represents our work towards a balanced and sustainable economic development, and certainly our work on the bio, circular, and green economy.
BCG, yes.
Yes, economy model that is part of our national recovery strategy as well. And here, it's not just our work in the environment, but it actually also ensures balance, equal opportunities for women, as well as for other groups, for youth as well, and also in other areas like food security as well. So balance, we're not just looking at, balance in terms of our the way we live in relation to environment, or how we conduct our trade and business in relation to the environment. And the Shalom is actually the winning design by Nong Chawanon. We had organized a national youth design logo competition.
Like a competition, right.
Where we had introduced our theme, and we wanted to ask our youth, so now that you've heard a little about APEC and what our goals are for this year, what's your inspiration? How does this inspire you? And so this was the winning design, and it certainly very much captures.
Right. I mean, it looks great, and it expresses exactly what you say. I think it's like promoting cohesiveness in the region, basically connecting across all sectors and balancing them. Just now, you gave us an overview of APEC, Thailand hosting APEC this year. Let's talk a little bit more about the benefit that Thai people stand to gain, as well as people abroad. What can they gain from this?
Sure. If we just go one by one, I guess, based on our theme, on open, certainly trade and investment opportunities for Thai businesses, entrepreneurs, startups, and MSMEs, and certainly for women as well. There will be certainly discussions about how we can facilitate trade and make it easier for all of us to trade. On Connect, we are certainly looking into areas such as e-commerce, help increasing access to green finance.
How do you define green finance?
Well, green finance, and this is certainly tied into our larger picture of working and advancing our BCG economy model, and work economy. And working towards sustainability and more balance. So we're looking into sustainable finance as well. And what we would like to do is increase opportunities for access for women to sources of funding, and especially into green finance. On balance, the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly shown us that there's been an imbalance in the way we connect our lives, in the way we conduct our trade and business practices as well. So here we are looking into discussions on how we can work together to make it financially viable, and look at ways on how we can involve businesses in adopting practices and responsible business conduct to help promote trade that is sustainable and balanced.
So, I mean, the issue right now with BCG is that more hindrances to making profit because it's more costly. So, so you're talking about efforts to basically how to make it more commercially viable, as well as get SMEs integrated into the system, so they could adopt this business model as well. Now, discussion of BCG was also part of the senior official meeting, or SOM1, which took place in February. Can you tell us a little bit about how the meeting has been able to move forward APEC's goals?
Certainly, and this is actually a little bit of the complexity, I guess, of the nature of APEC. So we have these series of senior official meetings that will take place throughout the year. And it might seem a little bit frustrating to people who are outside the APEC system, because it seems as if we do a lot of talking, but we're actually laying the groundwork at different levels, and they will build up on one another and lead towards concrete outcomes, both along the way and also what we will see culminate at the Leader Summit in November.
Right.
So at this first senior officials meeting on Open, what we did was we actually kick-started this conversation on the free trade area of the Asia Pacific. Even when APEC was first started, and also conversations that were started, I think in 2004, about forming this free trade area for the Asia Pacific. Are we still committed towards this goal? And if we are, how can we incorporate the lessons that we've learned from COVID-19 and also take into account the new and emerging trade and investment issues that we're facing? And the response was yes, all the member economies, they're still very much interested and they want to move this forward, so which is great. And so now we have the framework on how to move forward on this direction. On Connect, as we've been talking about, travel has been disrupted, services and the tourism industry, many countries in the region have been affected by it, and certainly we've seen the effects of it in Thailand as well. Over 4 million people who are involved in the services sector, their livelihoods have been very much affected. So we're looking into how we can facilitate travel and make it easier for people to travel again. Right now we have all of these different forms for vaccinations that are issued by different economies, and we also have even different types of vaccines that people have been using. So, what can we do to make it easier?
Is it like a standardization, basically, so that it's easier for people to travel to other countries?
Well, the word that we use here in APEC is safe passage.
Safe passage, yes.
Correct. How and certainly how to make it seamless as well. So we're looking at how we can facilitate that. And what we'd like to look at is certainly some sort of travel protocol. And this is voluntary. Which economies are ready to start in this? Let's start with that. It doesn't have to be an all-inclusive 21-member economy. Well, we're looking into both short-term and long-term objectives. In the short term, what we're looking at is at least an information portal where at least it'll be easy for travelers to find information on what they need to do to prepare for travel, at least in one space, in one location. So it'll sort of be like a one-stop information portal where if they can just visit the site, they'll get all the information that they need. And another one is certainly this sharing of information of the vaccines that we have received, so that when we travel, it'll just be easier to facilitate travel and not have to spend a lot of time just checking which vaccines we have received as well. And certainly in the longer term, what we would like to do is this travel protocol amongst APEC economies that we like to look at, and also expanding the use of the APEC travel business card to a larger scope of people, because right now not all of business people work for multinationals. Right now we have entrepreneurs who are successful in their own right, but they might not be affiliated with a large company. We have startups.
What are the benefits provided to APEC business cards at the moment?
Well, it makes traveling easier. You don't have to apply for a visa every time.
Even amid COVID, even amid the pandemic, it's still being used like that.
Well, with COVID, certainly there are restrictions, and so that's why we'd like to have this conversation to see what we can do to facilitate travel, and also make it easier for business people to travel. And we'd like to use the existing mechanisms that we have, such as the APEC Business Travel Card.
Let's take a short break right now, but we'll be right back to discuss more about Thailand's work as the APEC host. Don't go away.
Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises
มาตรการช่วยเหลือทางธุรกิจที่ควรเน้นผู้ประกอบการ MSME และสตาร์ทอัพเป็นอันดับแรก
การพัฒนาขีดความสามารถและการปรับตัวของผู้ประกอบการ Micro SME ในยุคหลังโควิด
So my business is one of the MSMEs. If yes, so what? It's so confusing.
Don't be confused. I will clarify it for you. MSMEs comes from micro, small, and medium enterprises. According to the information from OSMEP, a total number of MSMEs in Thailand are accounted for more than 99%. This is not just a majority. This is almost the whole country. And are you one of the 99%? Let's see. The first M is micro enterprises.
ส้มตำกระตั้วพาพายาปอกปอกพาพายาสลัด with a very good taste for you.
This is micro. It could be manufacturing, trade, and service sectors with annual revenue for not more than 1.8 million baht and employment for not over than 5 people. S is from small enterprises.
Good evening, ma'am. Welcome to our cuisine. Everyone, take care of her.
This is small, which could be manufacturing with annual revenue for more than 1.8 million baht but not over than 100 million baht, while employment is more than 5 employees but not over than 50 employees. For the trade and service sectors, the annual revenue should be more than 1.8 million baht but not over than 50 million baht, while the employment is more than 5 people but not over than 30 people. And the last M is medium enterprises.
This is the grand opening of Som Tam Kratua, the 7th branch.
This is medium. For manufacturing, the annual revenue should be more than 100 million baht but not over than 500 million baht, while employment is more than 50 employees but not over than 200 employees. For trade and service sector, the annual revenue should be more than 50 million baht but not over than 300 million baht, and the employment is more than 30 employees but not over than 100 employees. If your shop or business is MSMEs, you can be sure that you will get full benefits from APEC because the economies are exchanging successful policies to promote your business. And what are they talking about? They will share great development ideas among the discussion for the government to bring great ideas from other places to use in our country, whether it is to promote digital system, technology, and other assistance measures. In the future, we will see other initiatives apart from ธงฟ้า projects เราไม่ทิ้งกันคนละครึ่ง and เราเที่ยวด้วยกัน initiatives. Stay tuned, you'll be rich.
NBT World, a vision of Thailand.
Welcome back. You're watching Thailand Today, and we continue our discussion on APEC 2022 with Ms. Prinat Apirat, MFA's Deputy Director General of the Department of International Economic Affairs. Let's continue with a BCG, which of course is a main focus this year. What agenda of BCG is the main focus in APEC?
Sure. Well, under the BCG, what we hope to achieve is to have a leaders declaration on the BCG at the end of the year. And what we've done so far is we're working on a key elements paper.
Okay.
And we have identified 5 key areas, and this is something that we'd also talked about at at this policy dialogue on BCG that we had, where we introduced this concept and we discussed in further detail. And the great thing is that we've actually found that economies, member economies in APEC, they're actually very much engaged in the bio, circular, and green economy already, but just in different dimensions, approaching it different aspects.
What is the key issue that needs to be solved so that there could be more players in BCG? Like more businesses can basically adapt their business models so that it's in line with BCG.
Well, in this, the key elements paper that I mentioned, so we've identified 5 key areas that we would like to further explore as areas of further cooperation. The first one is certainly climate mitigation. The second one is sustainable trade and investment. The third area is sustainable management of resources. The fourth area is conservation of the environment and biodiversity. And the fifth area is waste management.
That's basically the plan going forth in terms of BCG. Now, of course, a lot of the discussion is also on economic recovery post-pandemic. what kind of foundation has been laid to sort of assist and ease like businesses, everyone really, because everyone's been impacted into the post-pandemic recovery?
Well, I think what we've been talking about under the open, connect, and balance, certainly our discussions on advancing the free trade area of the Asia Pacific, these are also discussions that are also taking place in the World Trade Organization as well. And we're going to have our trade ministers meeting, which will take place in May. And that is going to be a very good lead up to the World Trade Organization's ministerial conference, the 12th ministerial conference, which will take place in June. So it will very much lay a good foundation for that conversation. In terms of Connect, certainly laying the foundation for safe passage and safe and seamless travel across borders within the region. On balance, certainly setting the framework and laying the groundwork for our path forward towards sustainable trade and development. What kind of trade practices can we engage in? Practical measures that we can do and take, this change in mindset that has to take place so that we will all work together towards sustainable trade and development.
APEC 22, there's a lot of meetings that take place.
Yes.
One of them which took place recently in March, on March 16th and 17th, was the APEC Finance and Central Bank Deputies meeting. Can you tell us a little bit about this, like what kind of issues were covered?
Sure. This is the meeting of as you correctly mentioned, of the APEC Finance and Central Bank Deputies. And this was chaired by the Permanent Secretary of the Minister of Finance. And the theme this year is advancing digitalization, achieving sustainability. And there are two key priorities, which includes sustainable finance and digitalization for the digital economy. So as you can see, it's very pertinent topics and priorities and looking at laying the groundwork for future, both in e-commerce as well, and also in e-platforms. The meeting discussed steps forward, and there were also participants from outside member economies as well, representatives from organizations such as the IMF, the ADB, the APEC Business Advisory Council, and also from the APEC Policy Support Unit, who are also there to help provide other perspectives on how we could move forward on creating this ecosystem for sustainable finance, and on also, as I mentioned, platforms for digitalization as well.
Now, in this ecosystem, of course, the private sector is one of the key players,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How do you think they can actually assist with moving forward APEC's goals, the private sector?
That's one of the beauties of APEC, the role of the private sector. They are very much key to our work. Trade investment, again, is what APEC is all about. And the private sector, they're the ones who are carrying out this trade investment. And a lot of the work that we do actually responds to the recommendations and also suggestions from the private sector. So we work very closely with APEC, which is short for the APEC Business Advisory Council. They were actually the ones who had recommended work on the free trade area of the Asia Pacific and also work on the safe passage as well. So you can see we are very much directly responding to the needs of the private sector. And as I mentioned earlier, how we had listened to all our stakeholders to see what were the areas that they wanted to see us move forward. And this also very much represents the whole society approach that we've also been talking about as well, both in terms of the BCG and also our APEC host year, which is very much an inclusive process. For us to be able to move forward all of our goals and achieve our shared objectives, it requires both the efforts, the partnership
Right.
From the private sector in moving forward as the people, as the implementers of trade investment, of people, from the Thai people as well.
That's what I was going to ask. Like,
right.
How can the general public assist with this as well? What can they do? What can our viewers at home do to contribute?
Viewers can contribute in so many different levels. As I mentioned, as part of this whole society approach, viewers, just as part as our daily lives, to little things that we can do to contribute towards a more balanced, sustainable lifestyle. Using water bottles instead of plastic cups.
Right. So going green is
correct.
One of the, because it still touches on like the BCG aspect.
Correct.
Right.
And as consumers, making choices in supporting, choosing products that are environmentally friendly. We understand that there are certainly costs involved, and that's exactly what we're trying to do, to work together to find solutions. We're working together, with researchers to find ways. We're working together, producers, to find more environmentally friendly protection, and we're also working with government agencies to see what kind of policies and regulations we could use to help promote and create this ecosystem that will help support our shared goals. And certainly, for Thai people, as hosts of APEC, we can all work together to be, good hosts and welcoming delegates to Thailand throughout the year.
Right. So even small things make a huge contribution if they come from a lot of people at the same time.
Very much.
Now, lastly, what is next for APEC 2022? What's in the pipeline?
Well, our series of meetings will be continuing throughout the year. Next up, we will have our second senior officials meeting, which will take place in May, and we will also have our trade ministers meeting as well. That will also be taking place in May, and then we have our next series of meetings, and we also will have 9 ministerial meetings that will take place throughout the year. Before, again, culminating in our Leaders Summit in November. We plan to host physical meetings throughout Thailand, which we think is a great opportunity both to, as the timing is very good as we reopen Thailand again. It's a chance for us to welcome people back to Thailand, and for us to reintroduce Thailand. We have now adapted to COVID-19. We have new sustainable tourism as well. We have new ways of doing things. And so this is actually a very exciting period to be hosting APEC, and presents a lot of opportunities for all groups and sectors of society, even particularly our youth, to have this opportunity to engage, and also to, again, as we hold these meetings throughout the different parts of Thailand, there'll be a chance to showcase the different, the uniqueness of each region, and our potential and the innovativeness, and certainly the beauty of Thai culture, and our hospitality to our visitors.
I think, like you said, it's it's a very pivotal time to have these conversations, especially as like the whole world, the whole region, and the country, of course, is kind of like slowly lifting ourselves into recovery. And so I'm sure that especially if it results in more inclusivity, balance, and connecting people, it's definitely something everybody is looking forward to. Thank you so much, Ms. Prinat Apirat, the Deputy Director General of the Department of International Economic Affairs of the MFA, for coming to us and making time for us today. ขอบคุณมากนะคะ สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
And that's it for our show today. We broadcast every Friday at 11 p.m. on NBT2 HD and every Saturday at 9:30 p.m. on NBT World, as well as live on our NBT World YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and comment on our Facebook page, Thailand Today Online. I'm Prinat Apirat, your host. สวัสดีค่ะ